Hello, everybody, and welcome to the channel. My name is Rajan, and I'm here with four other top players ready to talk about our San Diego run. I'm taking this over for Adi because interchangeable. Go ahead.
Yeah, does everyone want to introduce themselves first and foremost? Starting with Rajan, our host.
I'm not hosting at all, but my name is Rajan. Been playing BGC since 2016 and very happy to be here to talk about the team we've got going on today.
Introduce yourself, Burns.
Hey guys, I'm Justin Burns. I'm on Twitter as at just Mr. Burns. I'm from Arkansas. I team build with these guys a lot, and I'm happy to be here.
That is just a lie. You do not team build with me a lot. One bit, brother.
It's also a lie. He's really not happy to be here. He tried to sabotage this report.
Come on, man. 2 for 2.
Also, he said he team builds a lot.
Hey, I built Alex's
He's
Pokebros
also
team.
born
and he
in
got
San
top.
Diego. You're not from Arkansas either.
It's true.
Okay.
Pathological liar. This report's gone so great so far.
Nick, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Nick Navarre. I'm Nails. I've been playing Pokemon since 2010, VGC since 2015. Ran this team with these guys. I've got some results. You can watch my other report for a listing of those.
All right, and last but not least, Angel, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Angel Miranda. I'm a VGC/TCG player from New York. I've been playing since 2010 competitively, and that's about it.
Yeah. And so we built this team together. We all got championship points with it at the San Diego Regional Championships, as well as Sohype used the same 6 Pokemon with different sets. And so that actually meant that we had the most common core in the top 128 championship point bracket.
Which is such a funny idea to me.
It just was like, it's pretty unusual for 6 people to run the same team at a regional, much less for all 6 people to get points. It just means that we were very consistent. 2 of us top cut the regional. Angel got top 16 and I got top 32. So it was just, a really, really strong team. One of the most consistent teams at this tournament, and something that I'm really excited to share.
Yeah, tell the people what your margins were, Adi, in terms of top 32.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that in the tournament run a little later. It was kind of a crazy run for me. I know we all have stories to tell about the tournament, but let's talk about the lead up to the tournament. We were building this team, and so I guess this started, I think, like a week before the regional. All of us just did not have, except for Nick, who had a team he was sort of comfortable with. The rest of us did not really have a team. And I guess Roshan and Justin, you guys can start from there.
Yeah, so I was kind of like thinking about what I wanted to do in terms of like approaching just in general game plans into the meta. So I was like, there's a lot of people using goggles. I'm a big Amoonguss fan. I want to like knock off the goggles and so I can spore them on. And I think what I started with was some stupid Cyclozar guy with knockoff.
You in fact did start with a stupid
And
Cyclozar guy with knockoff.
we dropped it and changed it to like the good knockoff Pokemon, which is of course Meowscarada. And so I was like, I want to do like Amoonguss Goldengo. I want to do like Meowscarada Amoonguss. That's a lot of Fire Weeks. And Rajan suggested like, well, let's just put Pelipper on it. Like Pelipper is just kind of a good Pokemon into the meta, and that ended up, showing at the regional. That's where we started with. So we built and tested like the Goldengo Amoonguss core with like Meowscarada Pelipper. And I didn't do great in like our little in-house tournament. And then, so I was like, all right, I'll figure something else out tomorrow. So I went to sleep, and then Rajan like just started cooking overnight, so he can take from there.
Yeah, so that's a good segue. I think the other thing to consider is going into this tournament, a lot of people's team building groups and ideas were converging on similar solutions. I think everybody and their grandmothers at this point, not even their moms, but Nana's up in here, they're building Tauros Amoonguss Goldengo. That was one of the most like ridiculously common cores that pretty much every human being converged onto, like on ladder, different groups, etc. In addition to, other strong Pokemon like Dondozo and, I mean, Series 1 is over. I don't want to talk about it anymore. But Um, I was also very excited about Tauros, Goldango, Amoonguss, just for the record, a couple weeks before everybody else. But we all got there. Um, and the thought was taking some of what we're, but like one of the issues with it is that Meowscarada was pretty tough for the core, and then we were struggling with like some various things. I the centerpiece of our team was what drove Nick to come back to the team building process, what stopped scaring Justin away from it. Adi's a follower, so he's on board, and Angel liked it. But what the centerpiece of the team was my favorite set on it was the Scarf Paldean Tauros. I just had the realization that Scarf Tauros eviscerated a lot of Meowscarada sets, put up a lot of pressure against like Pawmot or things that were otherwise generally faster than Tauros, got to attack Mousehold before it beat up Annihilate, like things of that nature. And that made me feel a little bit more excited about the offense that Amoonguss and the balanced offense that Amoonguss Goldango got to bring to the table. So then I put Scarf Tauros in the builder, and I was looking at it, and I'm like, this is passing the vibe check. I like this. But like, when I have something that I think passes the vibe check, I don't display it publicly. I DM each of my friends individually as opposed to the single group chat we have together. So I DM Nick. Nick thinks this passes the vibe check. DM Justin.
It passed the vibe check with Flying Tours.
Passes the vibe check. And we're like, all right, we're 2 for 2 on passing the vibe check. So we stuck it in the builder. I don't remember exactly when Angel and Adi got excited about passing the vibe check, but we all kind of converged onto it and said, like, this works great. And Pelipper next to it seems like it makes a lot of sense. So then we had a really cool Amoonguss Goldango Pelipper core, which like deals with a lot of the weaknesses that Goldango has. But then we also have the stupid fast water type offense that was Scarf Tauros. One of the reasons we're excited about this as opposed to routes that some of our other friends were doing was because like when you traditionally think of strong water offense with Pelipper, you think of Palafin. But like none of us, at least, the Palafin holdouts, liked how that Mon played particularly a lot. And it kind of felt like this Tauros approach filled the niche or the void of having the strong water type offense while also allowing us to have Intimidate on the team, turn 1 scaries, and just otherwise help support what we wanted more than, say, like a Palafin raid build. So that was what we were building around as the core of 4, and then we kind of iterated off that.
And so I think some notable context as well is that Nick had been building around Pelipper without like any real rain abusers for a little bit. Nick, do you want to talk about that like for a second?
I've been working with Pelipper since like 3 weeks before the regionals. I spiked ladder with a team that was like Pelipper, Bulky Breloom, Gothitelle, King Gambit. I think there was a Salamence on there.
And spiked in this context is number 1 on ladder.
Yeah, I got number 1 on ladder. I was the second person to 2,000 rating, I think. I've got receipts for that and everything. And so like I was pretty into the bulky Pelipper idea, like starting from a few weeks ago. And I still just think that Pelipper is the best bulky water in the format. It has like
bulky.
The term bulky is used extremely loosely here, but it like wide guard gives it a lot of effective bulk. But yeah, there just like aren't special attacking waters really in the format. There's exactly Tatsugiri, who is like extreme. It's super frail. Like it dies to a Tauros close combat, for example.
And
like,
Clawitzer, if you really want to go there.
Wait, sorry, what was it?
And Clawitzer, if you really want to go there.
Yeah, there's Clawitzer, there's Gastrodon, just really, really mediocre Pokemon. And so Pelipper, it gets the rain boost on its attack, so it's just it's got a respectable enough special attack stat that just hits 1.5x times stronger thanks to rain. And it's got Hurricane, which is really high base power move as well, and hits Amoonguss. So it just ticks a lot of boxes for water type. It's the best wide guard user in the format. Because it resists Earthquake and Make It Rain, and Heat Wave. Those are the like 3 of the biggest spread attacks, and it can just switch in on any of them. and then wide guard to protect a partner. So it's like bulky in a team support way, and its tailwind isn't fast, but it tends to get enough free turns just because it's amazingly well positioned in the format, so that it can get tailwind up when it's advantageous. But it's also right at the perfect speed tier where it can just be a trick room sweeper by itself. The spread that I was using on Pelipper earlier, like there's surely going to be a team up on the screen. But yeah, it was a lot of special bulk, and it was like with a citrus berry. And we'll get into Pelipper set on our team later on, but it was like, yeah, it just Pelipper seemed really good, and so I was exploring a lot of options with it. And I think that heading into this tournament, there's been a lot more Pelippers on the Series 1 ladder. So I'm going to be excited to see if more people take it in interesting directions, because just having rain without like Swift Swimmers or whatever is just a good thing to do in Series 1. It's probably going to fall off in Series 2, but for people that are looking to play Liverpool, Pelipper is a good mon.
And
that's my film Pelipper.
Obviously, there were 7 in Top Cut, which kind of speaks for itself, but most of them were paired with like rain abusers, right? They're paired with Palapin, or they were paired with Dreadnought. And I think that if Nick wasn't doing all this testing with Pelipper on very untraditional compositions, we wouldn't have came to the conclusion that it fit really naturally. But it really does shore up a lot of the weaknesses of Gholdengo and Mungus. Notably, it also has perfect defensive coverage for Gholdengo, where it is immune to ground, resists fighting, and resists fire, and also weakens his fire weakness in general. And so it really did slot really naturally onto this team. I think Taurus actually came a little later because we had it wasn't on the original Meowscarada variant, but it just felt like Mon 5 on that, and then we realized how strong Pelipper can be in Taurus can be in rain, and so that sort of core 4 that we started building around just felt really natural. And I think that I forget whether we put Mimikyu or King Gambit on next. I know Nick was the King Gambit fan as well.
Yeah. King Gambit was the mon that so Rajan had the core of like 4 mons.
Oh, and then yeah, you took it and then put the men's team, right?
Yeah. Honestly, I was just gonna have that just go up on the screen and not there's not too much to say about the team. It's just like the pieces kind of speak for themselves. The men's set is weird, I guess, but it's it's just some ideas, and the team works, but it's not really the point. I was just gonna go into how the Big Sharp works on our team, but basically, Assault Vest, Big Sharp in the rain, cutting its fire weakness. It can defensively tear out of its other weaknesses, and I guess I'll describe AV Big Sharp as a mon. The way to think of it is it has too many stats. It deals about 20% too much damage with all of its hits, and takes about 20% less damage than it's supposed to take from any hits that it's absorbing. And that applies to physical moves where it's just 105, 120 bulk, I think. And then special moves, because it has an Assault Vest, it's stupid bulky. And it has priority to give it some flexibility in its damage trades, and it just hits harder than you. It's going to win its damage trades. And so I was like, hey, this guy is pretty cool. It deals with Hydreigon. It deals with opposing Gholdengo mirrors moderately well. And that's really when the team started to come into its final form, is when we realized that the format has 2 broken steel types. They both love rain support, and they both kind of check each other's weaknesses. Big Sharp hates fighting against Amoonguss. At least Assault Vest does, because you don't have goggles, and so having Gholdengo that can just come in on a Spore and treat Amoonguss as setup bait when the game is also very powerful. And so choosing both of the broken steel types, it's just good. And we came to that conclusion on when the team was coming together.
So then I guess at that point we have 5 Pokemon, and we're just kind of looking at the compositions, and we're just saying we have stats, we've got cool setup, we've got cool support, We have a lot of defensive synergy. We have
We've got a lot of damage.
we have really strong immediate offense. We have intimidate. It's like we've checked a lot of boxes here in a way that came together really naturally, but we're struggling with specific key matchups. Opposing Dendozo was reasonably too impossible to deal with at this point in the game. We had Intimidate, and we had like Hurricane, which hurt it a little bit. Like Intimidate and Amoonguss were our bread and butter against the matchup at this point, but we didn't really have a way to like actually, take it there. And then we were just thinking through like, okay, what else are we struggling into? We do have a hard time sometimes maybe I guess like hitting a Baxcalibur or like picking off things focus sashes. And at this stage, like Mimikyu was kind of killing it on ladder. And one thing that we realized through our through mechanics testings and things was that the game kind of lets you target curse now. It didn't used to let you target your curse, your ghost type curses last gen. And a lot of us independently were pretty excited about testing Curse Mimikyu on some builds as a response to Dendozo. And we kind of like thought about it and went like, maybe it goes really well here. With like Play Rough and Shadow Claw and Shadow Sneak and Curse and just attacking things. But then just quickly realized how much more value we got out of Trick Room on the set and just went with a support Play Rough, Shadow Sneak, Curse, Trick Room, Mimikyu. And I think in terms of what our needs were at that point, and just what the team was looking like, it was the perfect Mon 6. I do think that there were some struggling matchups at the end of the but like we came across Mons 1 through 6 for the first time in my life a couple days in advance of the regional, and reasonably quickly.
Yeah. This is actually like pretty straightforward for me. Like this is usually how I do my prep. I tend to like to lock in on a team like a week in advance, and Rajan's always like burning all of the clock that he can to try to fit his core together. And so it was fun for me to watch him just sit on the from about 24 hours to like 6 hours out. He was mostly chilling and making sure that the details were good. And towards the end, we like messed with a couple Terra types, and we spent like 4 hours just talking in San Diego on Friday before submitting, making sure that our last two Terra types were correct. But everything else was solved like a few days in advance, and just like we had time to just sit on the team and think about how I was going to play. And you guys can talk about your experience with that. But
yeah, I think that we had the 6 Pokemon. We looked at them. We said these have excellent defensive synergy. They kind of cover a lot of the matchups. I think a lot of things struggle with Rain plus Steel types or Amoonguss plus Goldengo. We had I think we just had all the tools we needed, and I know that was what Angel was really looking for, and he jumped on pretty late. But he was like, "Yeah, I just want a team that has tools that lets me play the game." Right?
Yep. So I really just wanted a team that like gave me options versus like anything. Like if I can play the game and play the board, I can reasonably play any matchup I'm okay with, and that's all I wanted in the team. I didn't want anything too linear. I just wanted something where I can look at the board and then maneuver around it, and this team gave me every option I could have wanted.
So
yeah,
the initial
play Pokemon.
The initial draft of the team actually looked reasonably different in terms of Terra types. Specifically, we were thinking that we had Terra Water on the Tauros for a lot of reach damage and rain. Like turn 1, nuke it off the face of the earth. Like Garchomp gets super killed. Really bulky Mouse gets super killed. Like
Goldengo gets wiped.
Like, a lot of reach damage.
Wave Crash in the rain with Terra Water. It just eats stuff. Like neutral hit. If it's a neutral hit, it probably picks it up, unless it's something like a physically bulky mon that's investing in physical bulk. So like Poison Garganacl doesn't get one shot, but it's kind of close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that it was just it was Tauros that was it was Amoonguss, Goldengo, and Mimikyu that felt like we were pretty set on the Terra types. The other 3 were not.
Yeah.
Tauros getting a lot of reach was cool. And getting rid of its fighting typing was cool because it meant it wasn't weak to flying anymore, which is pretty common. And so it did have a decent amount of utility there. One thing I will note about the team, because we're going to talk about how we changed it in a second. But one thing I will note is that this was very unusual for me because I had not played a bunch of practice games with these 6. But we did play a few matchups that we thought were going to be common and potentially problematic. Obviously prepped against Ndozo. If you watched the team report with Choppa, you will have heard how Mike played, I think, multiple sets against us. And so they had a really strong idea of how to play the matchup because of that.
And hashtag thanks Mike, because that was like, not to say Mike, that was the confidence booster, really, in terms of not because like we just bodied Mike by any means, but just like, okay, wait, this is playable, this is good, like these lines are working, this makes a lot of sense.
Yep. Dondozo was the main
Like-
thing that was like, we're not going into a tournament without knowing that our Dondozo matchup works because it's too common and it's too
Oh no, we forgot a whole arc here. Because like we got to the end of the team, and that's when I got it in game and started laddering with it a lot. And I was like losing my mind because I was playing the series 1 ladder on Showdown. I was the only one playing any games for this team at this point. So we just have a call of 6 muted jerkwads watching me just tear out all of my hair, scream at my Switch. Like it was just the worst laddering experience of my life. And at this point I'm just like, I've been locked in this room for the last 48 hours. They won't let me out. I've just been team building, and now it's just an awful experience. And like there were elements that were cool, but I just felt so dog. And then like Big Papa Nick comes in and goes, give me an open team sheet, let me show you why you're stupid. And then he comes in and we start playing with, like, we hadn't been playing open team sheet games, which is, I mean, I acknowledge that like it was a better open team sheet team, but every team is a better open team sheet team when you're losing, right?
This is probably where I jump in and say that we lost Burns' camera. Like open sheets and closed sheet format is like they're just completely different formats. You have to approach them differently. You have to build for them differently. You play them completely differently. Knowing where all of the techs are, just it's a different game. The 2 biggest examples I have are Amoonguss gets way better in open team sheets because you know where all the Terra grasses are, you know where all of the safety goggles are, you know where all of the taunts are and the substitutes, and all the Amoonguss counterplay, and you just get to see, okay, I get to spore into this slot, I get to spore into this slot, I am not going to mess with this slot, I'm not going to waste turns on it, I'm just going to pollen puff my partner or pollen puff the grass type in front of me. It just like allows it to work at maximum efficiency. And Amoonguss has never been able to operate at maximum efficiency with that degree of safety until like top cut of regionals before, or like Worlds Day 2, or just like where information is actually like fully public and you know everything about their team. You just didn't get to do that until open sheets, or I guess some of the players' cups. And so Amoonguss is just a massive winner. I guess the second winner, to a lesser degree, is Intimidate, because stuff like Clear Amulet and Defiant and like you just don't. It's similar to Amoonguss. You just don't waste your time with matchups where or switching it into mons where you're going to be wasting time, and so you just get to be more efficient with what you're doing. The flip side is something that really gets punished by open sheets is Mouse Ape. That's like a really big one. Mouse Ape just doesn't work as well in open sheets. A big part of Mouse Ape is the fact that they're threatening all Beat Up, they're threatening Technician Pop Bomb, they're threatening Defiant, they're threatening Vital Spirit, and your counterplay has to be completely different based on which of 6 different options they are. They could be any of like Fire Terra on the Ape is like relatively standard, and Ghost Terra on the Mouse is relatively common, but normal Terra is still something you kind of have to respect. You just waste so many like they could be Encore, they could there's just so many options for Mouse Ape to pull off, and knowing that they only have 4 moves on each mon and what they are just allows you to like actually counterplay with them. and you don't have to fear every option.
Specifically with like Amoonguss on the team, where you know if the goggles is on the mouse or not, and you know if it's Vital Spirit or not on the Annihilate. If you have an Amoonguss on the team, playing open team sheet versus closed team sheet against Mouse Ape is just so different.
Yeah, or Intimidate. Like Intimidate shuts down Vital Spirit Ape relatively well, and it also shuts down offensive Mouse Hold pretty well. And so yeah, just the defensive counterplay is so unreliable in closed sheets, and it works sometimes, and you can know which part of the counterplay you're supposed to bring.
So
And so I guess the one other set that I remember we played that we were a little worried about, because a lot of the matchups, like Mouse Ape, again, you get to team preview, you have their team sheet. I think you can pick
Yeah, Dozo is the other one, the other big loser in open sheets. You don't have to play around Terra Dragon, Terra Steel, Terra Grass, Terra Flying, like Terra Water.
at the same time.
Yeah, it just there's so many Dozo sets. You don't have to play around Sub and Protect and Testo Resto, like just then Choice Band or Assault Vest. Like there's so many different sets, and they're all relatively viable. And playing around everything on ladder, there's a few blanket checks. Like Skeledirge is a pretty good ladder tech because it generally, like if you Terra Fairy, you're probably going to be get into Dozo. Other than that, you're just kind of praying that you hit the right matchups. And in open sheets, you just get to you have to respect Water Dozo, and then only the thing it's going to Terra into. And that's so much easier, and you can just have mons that beat every single Dozo and not worry about it in open sheets. And so yeah, Dozo is still very powerful, but it is significantly better on ladder than it is in open sheets.
And so I want to tell the story about how we got to Life Orb Pelipper, because I think that is also one of the weirder things about the team that people were asking about. So I remember we played the only two best of threes that we played with the team, at least I played. Dozo, of course, like we talked about, and then we played against the Baxcalibur stuff, so Lazel Baxcalibur, because we were worried about that matchup. And I think Rajan played a best of three versus Kunal and lost.
It was no, I think I won. It was Kunal. I definitely won.
You definitely lost. I remember the set. This was maybe at the low point where you were really feeling bad about the team. And then I remember I played it, and I switched over. I'd been saying for a while we had two items that we didn't know what was on it. We didn't know it was on the Pelipper. We didn't know it was on the Mimikyu. And Nick was really high on safety goggles Mimikyu, which I was not. And I was saying we should put safety goggles on Pelipper. At the time, we had Focus Sash.
Yeah.
And Focus Sash had been on Pelipper, and it never procced once for literally any of us at any point in any of the very few games that we had played. And so I said, I'm going to try Life Orb on Pelipper because I just think we need a little bit more oomph on this team. This team is pretty defensive and doesn't have any initial damage output. And I found out that if you put the Life Orb on Pelipper, you two-shot the Baxcalibur. And I think that completely changes the matchup. I think it makes it so much more playable, knowing that you have this initial threat onto Bax. If they Glaive Rush, you live the attack, and then you get to Hurricane and you kill it, which is even better. So you're threatening that as well. And so I really like that interaction. I posted those replays, and I think we played a couple other games. I think we did a calc, and we were like, oh, this is just Oko's Goldengo if they're glass. And so that was kind of how we switched over to Life Orb Pelipper. And once I had the Life Orb on Pelipper, I felt personally a lot more comfortable putting the safety goggles on Mimikyu, knowing that we had not only our own Amoonguss and our Goldengo to switch into Amoonguss, but also a third switch in, and then we had a Pelipper that could actually knock out Amoonguss instead of just doing 70 to it. So that was the Life Orb Pelipper story. I don't know about you guys, but for me, it was the MVP of my tournament run. So I'm really happy that we made that change.
Talk about the Terra on it.
Yeah, okay.
As well.
The Terra on it makes me so happy.
So initially, before the tournament, this is around, we had 3 Terras, like I said, that were up in the air. Taurus was initially Terra Water. King Gambit was originally Terra Grass, because we needed the...
it was originally Terra Flying, then changed
It was
to
Terra Flying.
Grass,
It was Terra Flying, we changed to
and then
Terra
it was
Grass.
Terra Grass on Pelipper.
Then we changed it back to Terra Flying. We were Terra Grass on Pelipper. And we changed to Terra Fairy. I think this was... Rajan figured this out. We brought up that we didn't need to be Terra Grass on Pelipper once we started Okoing and Mugus. And then Rajan kind of figured out what Terra Fairy was. So you want to go for that?
Yeah, so when we were figuring out, Adi was, kind of crying about, I don't know, generally he cries, but Murkrow, Garchomp, Hydreigon, something. He's like, man, I can't beat this. And he went to Reddit to post all about it, and he just couldn't beat the set and team at all. And we were just looking at our Terra types, and they were awful. And then I just had the like crystallizing realization. It's like, hold on. Garchomp has Earthquake, a spread move. Dragon Claw, a Dragon type move. Rock Slide, a spread move. Hydreigon has Dark Pulse, a dark move. Draco Meteor, a dragon move. And like Heat Wave most of the time, because a lot of generally they were now Heat Wave or feeling like they're all Heat Wave now.
Flash Cannon's fallen off.
And that's a spread move. And I'm like, hold on. So if we stick Terra Fairy on
There,
Pelipper,
your voice, Flash Cannon did not fall off.
I know it didn't really, but like a lot of them were Heat Wave, and if it was Flash Cannon and it was Terra Steel, then like our King Gambit felt a lot better into the matchup. And you know that sort of information in Open Team Sheet. But the ones that were threatening our Steel types were the Terra Fires. At least King Gambit more so. And then like all of those things were either spread move or resisted by Fairy. So when you have Terra Fairy Pelipper spamming Wide Guard, you straight up floodgate the whole board. Like, we were making Yu-Gi-Oh! Jokes the whole time, but it, like, really felt that way. And, like, Adi did this a lot. I think all of us had a Terra Fairy moment, at least at one point. Yeah. But, like, you just press that button, then the Murkrow, Hydreigon, Garchomp board states can't touch Pelipper. Literally cannot touch it. And then you just have to deal with Gold.
They can't touch the Steel type buddy sitting next to you either.
Yeah, that's the important thing. They can't use their spread moves to hit your King Gambit. So then you just have Murkrow, or excuse me, you have Pelipper, you have Amoonguss, and you have King Gambit, and you just completely decimate that matchup. Like, you leave nothing in front of it. And that's how Adi cut, because he played it 9 times. But
I played it like 4 times, yeah.
But it really did just take that entire archetype and just say, you are literally not allowed to press a single button into my team. I have prevented your capacity to play. And then they were still skeptical about it, even though I was like really hyped about it. And then we kind of realized Fairy was immune to Glaive Rush, and we're like, sold, done. Stick it on the team. We're done here. Now we have Life Orb Hurricane, which 2 shots, and now we are immune to the Glaive Rush. Like, we got it. We're here. We're sold. Done. And it was so good. The Pelipper was so good.
And so, notably, we made that change, and then we were like, okay, well, now we don't have a Terra Grass on the team, and we need something for Terra Grass. We did feel like we were a little weak to Amoonguss Gholdengo, and so we switched our King Gambit to Terra Grass from Terra Flying, which is probably its best defensive Terra type in a vacuum. And then we're locked in. We're pretty set with the team. We got all our Pokemon in game, and we're all going to San Diego. And I think it's like 4 p.m. on Thursday. Keep in mind, Team Lock is at 8 p.m. on Thursday.
Friday.
On Friday. And so we have to lock in our team in 4. We've all submitted our Arcanine team sheets and whatever. Team Lock is in 4 hours, and Nick tells us, yo, we got to change this right now. We got to make our King Gambit Terra Flying and our Tauros Terra Grass. You want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Terra Grass Big Sharp just kind of sucks. That's pretty much it. That's like the short version. The slightly longer version is that you can become Spore Immune with your King Gambit, but the Amoonguss can know that, and they can just Terra Steel their Gholdengo. Like, Amoonguss Gholdengo was the problematic matchup that we wanted to patch, and they can just if you're Terra Grassing, you cut your resistances to both of Gholdengo's stab moves, so that's not ideal. And 2, they can just, like, you Kowtow Cleave the Gholdengo for 55, and then they Pollen Puff for 50 and Leftover Seals for 6, and so they got to Nasty Plot or Make It Rain or do whatever else they wanted to do, and you didn't accomplish anything. And so Terra Grass doesn't really flip the one matchup that we wanted it to flip. And aside from that, it makes your other matchups just way worse because Grass is a really bad defensive typing. And so I was never really into Grass on the Big Sharp. And we decided that, like, we knew that there needed to be a Terra Grass somewhere because the team was still Amoonguss week. But, and, like, everything else was pretty much set in stone. Mimikyu obviously doesn't need it, and the other monsters were decided. So Tauros was the only one left, and we decided that it was just like the path of least resistance. The decision that made us feel the least bad was to put the Terragrass on the Tauros. We lost the capacity to nuke everything, but we gained the ability to, like, instead of an orbital nuke, it's a tactical nuke, and you can just like hit the Hydreigon, regardless of whether Terra steals, regardless of whether there's an Amoonguss next to it. You can always just ship a close combat into the Hydreigon, and it's going to hit, and like they have to deal with that.
Now, I
And
would
if
like
need
to
to-
note.
Yeah.
Sorry. I just would like to note the reason it wasn't Terragrass Tauros like 3 days ago is because Nick hated that idea.
Oh, I really hated
Absolute-
it too. Like, yeah,
Absolutely
the Terragrass
despised that idea. He was like,
Yeah.
"We lose our damage. It's crazy." Like blah 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 blah. But then Nails and I were in San Diego without any grown-ups, and that's how we eventually.
when we just
talked
talked
it
about our
out.
differences, and we're like, yeah, okay, fine, yeah, it has to be Terragrass on the Tauros. I was still disappointed that we lost the Terrawater because I mean, Wave Crash, Terrawater in the rain just hurt stuff. But
The main thing was we wanted our Terras to be higher impact. Was the end of the day, and Terragrass Tauros like sniping something quickly next to a Mungus is much higher impact than King
I'm not
Gambit.
even sure that's true. It's just
You're wrong.
it gives-
It's higher impact.
There
If
are
in the
there are some
Amoonguss
calcs.
matchup.
There are some calcs that
Nick-
you really want Terra Water for. Like
Nick is the guy that's like, sorry, he's the guy that's like who wants to use Amoonguss and everyone's raising their hand, but then he's like who wants to use Amoonguss checks and nobody's raising their hand.
like, I mean, that's just kind of like how I like to play Pokemon. Is I like to just nuke stuff when I can. Like my first regional win was with Bulu Kartana, just deal all the grass damage into a slot. So like I like having nuke buttons. I think it's just a really powerful thing to have. But I conceded that it wasn't right for this team, and so we have Wave Crash in the Rain instead of Terrawater Wave Crash in the Rain.
and notably,
But-
we submitted this change on our team sheets at like 7:55 p.m. on Friday.
We
And
did
at
do that.
80 and at 8:03, we realized one of these moves. Well, so we have a couple. We came to a chilling realization that one of our moves was wrong and should be something else. But there's a couple things that we still haven't chatted about the team sheet. One was we spent a while talking about whether it was 252, 252, 4 on Tauros or 4. No, but whether or not Tauros, like what Tauros's fourth move should be. And that's the main actually pending thing. And one thing we hadn't mentioned was that the core of this team was built around Timid Goldango. Goldango being timid, max speed timid, made it win against opposing Goldango much more frequently and put out its offense a lot more independently. So next to Amoonguss, it really was able to force everyone to respect it. And it was a really, really big threat by itself. There was a lot of timid Goldango at San Diego, and it really just popped off if you hadn't caught up yet. And so that with leftovers next to Amoonguss got to be strong and bulky. We chose to be strong and bulky, but not fast. We chose to be fast and bulky, but not strong.
Mm-hmm.
But with Nasty Plot and the damage that we had on our team, that was okay. And that was extremely, extremely good. I think every single person who used Timid Goldango was just like, this slaps. I'm so thrilled that I had it. Anything else would have been bad at this tournament.
It's worth noting
Yes.
that in this tournament, Maluka was timid, Chuppa was timid, and Jody was timid. So 3 of the top 4 teams had Timid Goldango on it as well.
And those are the only top Goldango in top 4.
Yeah, and like I can tell you that I won a set that came down to a Goldango versus Goldango. We both played to the end game, and they were max speed modest, and I was max speed timid. I talked about that on Alberto's report. And I played another set where it came down to Goldango versus Volcarona, and I outsped the Volcarona, and they were visibly shocked, and I'm pretty sure they just outsped modest. So I don't think people were expecting timid Goldango. It's going to be more common in the future.
I think it's worse, frankly, in the future.
It's worse if you have to play
at
speed
least-
ties.
It's not going to be as good. Like, it has a lot of room to be worse and still be good. But yeah, it was the nuts at this tournament, and it just will be solid. It'll be the correct choice, but people will know about it and they'll account for it. And there's a massive speed gulf right after Modest Goldango. Just like you get Modest Goldango is 136, you go to 137, and then there's like from there to Timid Goldango, there's a 12-point gap up to 149, and there's just nothing in that speed tier. Like the base, they're like Bax Caliber doesn't run max speed. There's no relevant base 90s. There's not like
Annihilate.
there's Annihilate, but they don't usually go Jolly.
They are
And,
now, which
like
is very
or,
funny.
like Jolly. Well, Jolly Annihilate's faster than
They,
Goldango, anyways. But
they are jolly now. That did just happen.
that's also fair.
But
But you can't catch them anyways. So and the like the speed golf is still there. Just people are realizing, oh, okay, I do have to invest like 14 points in speed or 13 points in speed to go from 137 to 150 just for Timid Goldango because it's that good and that
and
important.
then you have to go to 151 because Modest Hydreigon and all the above. But like, it
Yeah,
really
and
was
then
just-
you're into then you've caught up to the fast ones. But yeah,
and it's a good change for Goldie regardless because then mons are less fat, so they take
Yeah.
more damage. Like ultimately, but like the other last thing that we haven't really talked about was Taurus's fourth move. We had Wave Crash, Close Combat, Raging Bull locked in. In hindsight, would have replaced Raging Bull with Terra Grass for a physical grass
Blast, yeah.
move. Excuse me, Terra Blast, Terra Grass, Terra Blast for a physical grass move to hit Water type Volcarona, Sylveon, and Baxcalibur. But the fourth move that was just so good was Chilling Water. It was incredible. And the reason it was so good was because our Dondozo matchup involved making them regret the fact that they decided to pick up Game Boy Red, like Pokemon Red when they were younger, and just like make them regret all their decisions up until this point. We would cycle among Amoonguss, Tauros, Mimikyu quite a bit, and because Tauros was Scarf, it threatened the Meowscarados, the Pawmonts, and O-Code Scarf Tatsugiri and outran it and did a lot of like damage. So that plus King Gambit did a lot of damage into their front Pokemon. And
yeah,
when they finally
just like messes up Sylveon, etc.
Goldie and like all of the mons that they had next to it, Glimora, like we were threatening those Pokemon. We had some Dodo issues, obviously, because Dodo has like 8,000 viable compositions, and we can't beat all of them. Terra Flying was the hardest. Dodo next to Talonflame was really hard, etc. But when they got Dodo in, then we would get Intimidate in, be faster than them at +3 if they had Stretchy Dondozo or Stretchy Tatsugiri, and then just spam Chilling Water Pollen Puff until they cried a lot. We get Spores in there, we get Chilling Waters in there, we drop a Curse on it with Mimikyu, and we just damage cycle heal ourselves up. So at the end of the day, they have a Dondozo in, we have 4 Pokemon at 100%, their Dondozo's at -4, and we choose when it dies. So that we can make sure that we take killing Dondozo into winning the game. Versus, killing Dondozo and then mispositioning our Pokemon and getting swept by their Goldango or whatever it is. And it just felt like a really solid plan against like 90% of Dondozo. Because we had we could cover their front mons and we could cover their Dondozo mode. Obviously, again, there's compositions that fill in the cracks, and that's really tough. But we felt really, really good into Dodo for the most part.
Yep.
And it was all Chilling Water. I think our team was dog into Dodo without Chilling Water. Like, I think it's a very stark difference between like having a great matchup to having a 0% matchup.
You can win without Chilling Water, but it becomes a lot easier with Chilling Water. And I agree. I think it was crazy all day whenever I played Dozo. And
it's very easy to miss on the open team sheet, which I think Angel had that moment.
Yeah.
Oh, I also had one of those. I only played Dozo once, but my opponent just they saw what was going on, and they're like, "Wait, what?" And they were just visibly confused, and then like concerned and annoyed. Like they were attack boosting Dozo, and I got them down to -3, and it took them like quite a few turns through game 1 to just notice, okay, oh, he's locked into Chilling Water. My attack is going to the floor, and like the damage was done, and like it was just very good.
Yeah, and so like Rajan mentioned, I think the one change that I would make to this team in hindsight is I would replace Raging Bull with Terra Blast. I clicked Wave Crash almost every time I needed a water move. The recoil doesn't matter because you're super frail, and like there are situations where you know that Raging Bull will KO, and you don't need to take the recoil. But having a way to hit bulky waters, which were maybe the thing that we struggled with the most, is something that I think we would have changed in hindsight. Our Palafin matchup was something that I was a little spooked by. I don't think we had a huge problem with it, but like it was definitely concerning enough, and that would be another response to that. So that is the one change I would make in hindsight. Also, screens are not super real. Obviously, like Aurora Veil got top 8 in this tournament with James Evans, and there was a Sableye screens team that was second after Swiss. But Sableye
Amoonguss tends to be really good into screens comps anyways, so it's a little bit of a meta call. But
it's like my opinion was like I played against River Davis, who was using a team that had the same Sableye team that Ryan used to get second in Swiss, and I led Amoonguss Goldengo, and they had a Sableye, and the Sableye didn't do anything, and their partner didn't do enough, so I got to click Spore and Nasty Plot and then Nasty Plot and then Nasty Plot, and you just kind of set up on the screen setters with Amoonguss Goldengo, and they don't have a ton of counterplay to that a lot of times. Not always.
I think the Ryan Haig team had someone had Goggles Volk. I don't know who did. I thought they did.
No, they had left.
Were they lefties?
They had lefties, and they had Terra Water, and that was the reason I wanted to Terra Blast Taurus, right? Is that matchup would have been a lot easier. I know that was Angel's one loss in Swiss.
Yeah.
I had 2 losses, but yeah, that was
But we didn't realize that till like 8:05 p.m. after Team Luck.
So that's something to consider if you are thinking about bringing this team to Liverpool. But yeah. And so I guess there are some other things I want to talk about the individual Pokemon real quick. We went over pretty much what they all did, but there are some choices that we came to pretty early on that are a little less standard. First and foremost, Amoonguss. This is a Pokemon that I think we've all played with a lot. At least Nick has played with a lot. I know, Rajan, this is your first time ever using Amoonguss in your life.
At an event, I'm pretty sure. I am pretty sure it's my first event with Stroomer. And I can't go back. I've been on a base stat total kick ever since.
So, notably, there were 3 non-Rocky Helmet Shroom in Top Cut. There was Gavin's Eject Pack, and then there was Angel and myself who were on Citrus Berry. I think there might have been one other Citrus Berry. So that was really unusual, even though we are pretty confident that is the best item. And then Leaf Storm was not like fully appreciated by the wider player base as well as an option. So, Nick, as the resident Amoonguss expert, do you want to talk about those?
Hold on.
Burns is more of an Amoonguss.
No,
Hold
yeah,
on.
I was about to say, like, no, Burns.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, like I'm very much on the Amoonguss train for Series 1, but I have not been an Amoonguss believer.
No,
I've used it
Burns'
once
coattails
since
are
the
going
start of
crazy.
2016.
Okay, Justin.
So yeah, Burns. Tell us
Get him
about
a
him.
Shroom Lord, as he's otherwise known.
So Amoonguss, I mean, everyone like if you've played VGC for like any previous formats, you'd know what Amoonguss is, what it does. So I think the main reasonings behind our choices on the Amoonguss is we didn't really want our Amoonguss to be a meta call. We just wanted it to do Amoonguss things as well as possible.
Like every game.
Yeah, so for that reason, we went with Citrus Berry over Rocky Helmet, because that's going to give us more, that's going to be useful in every matchup. And that's a similar reasoning to why we use Citrus Amoonguss in Series 12, despite Citrus Amoonguss not being, the most common set. I think we went Terra Dark for, Prankster Taunt. I think that's, kind of a meta call, but it's just, the Terra Dark just shuts down Murkrow stuff. It's crazy.
That's a good defensive synergy.
It's a
with
good defensive
Grass
Terra type.
Poison.
It's 2 weakness or 3 weaknesses. You've got Fighting and Fairy, which you just never want to have in front of an Amoonguss, and Bug, which you never want to have on your team. So, it just it's really tough to abuse Dark Terra with a lot of standard Amoonguss counterplay. Just the format doesn't have great ways to hit Amoonguss pre-super effective, or pre-Terra super effective, and then also hit Dark types.
So, Burns, do you want to talk about using Amoonguss in Open Team Sheet?
I'm not done yet.
I'm sorry.
It also shuts
Alright.
down in DD Armorug, and we have Rain for Fire Week, so it just
Sorry.
covers it.
Shut up,
We
Nick.
have not gotten to the move. So I think Spore Rage Powder Pollen Puff is pretty standard. Like we know, like they gave Amoonguss Pollen Puff for some reason last gen, and it was like, okay, that's just insane utility on a mon that already has a ton of utility. Fourth move, most people run Clear Smog for Dondozo. I think like we run Leaf Storm. Like they gave Leaf Storm to Amoonguss this gen, and Amoonguss has never had like a move this powerful. The closest is like Grass Knot in GS Cup formats where you can Grass Knot the Kyogre for 120 base power. You can Grass Knot the Groudon for 120 base power. Just things like that. So being able to like do a ton of like a pretty good chunk of damage from a support Pokemon to anything that doesn't resist grass is kind of nuts. Another thing it does that makes us feel better about dropping Clear Smog is that you can use it into Dondozo, and then the next time you use Leaf Storm into Dondozo, its unaware ability will ignore your special attack drops. So if it doesn't Terra, you're basically doing like 30% to it, like with each hit, which is a lot for Amoonguss. And like you break sub, so it can't like sub, or like the subsets can't sub on Amoonguss because of Leaf Storm. You're always winning that damage trade. So that's kind of it for the like set. I think no protect is kind of punishable in open team sheet. Just kind of calling back to my NAIC team, which ran no protect Amoonguss. There were like people who told me I was like, you really caught me off guard by having 2 attacks on Amoonguss. Like sometimes like my opponents would try to play around protect when I didn't have it. Which like obviously helped a lot. So there is like a bit of a trade-off in open team sheet with the 2 attacks. But overall, like I think Amoonguss does have, like Nick said earlier, Amoonguss can punish open team sheet really well. So I think it doesn't. The drawbacks don't offset the advantages by a significant margin.
And just very quickly, I do want to say the thing that I like about Leaf Storm the most on Shimmer, Burns was talking about the Dodo matchup, but if you're going to bring Dondozo into a Amoonguss with Leaf Storm, you know 100% that the Dondozo is going to Terrastalize in the matchup. That's just what Leaf Storm forces. It means Dondozo has to Terra in the matchup, whereas if you have Clear Smog and they have Substitute, and your attacks are Clear Smog, Pollen Puff, Rage Powder, Spore, they can sub in the matchup knowing that you can't break their sub with Amoonguss, and then attempt to save their Terra for a different Pokemon to then have additional offensive pressure to then do different things with Dondozo. But Leaf Storm means if you have Dondozo, it Terrastalizes. Their Meowscarada is not going to hit you with more grass moves. Their Goldango is not going to hit you with more steel moves. They're like all their other mons have to stay their type, and there's a lot of security in knowing that.
Getting Iron-Headed by Kingambit.
Like, and there's a lot of security in knowing that, because it's either like if they Terra something else, they don't have Dodo in back essentially, or they have a really bad Pokemon in back, right? Like, and I think
like full HP Amoonguss can just straight up 1v1 boosted Dondozo, like with Leaf Storm.
And it just makes it so that like what they're gonna do, they know what you're gonna do. And it keeps the games a lot more honest. And I think that Leaf Storm does that. No other move on Amoonguss does that. And I think that's a really, really, really cool interaction, and shows that you don't need to Clear Smog the boosts away to beat the Dondozo if you are playing Pokemon correctly and effectively in positioning your pieces in a way that threatens their options. And that's what we preferred in terms of beating Dodo, as opposed to hazing the boost away, Clear Smogging the boost, or something in the short term that just takes away from our like. At the end of the day, if you're not playing Pokemon well, you're not going to win the tournament. And we preferred the option that makes us play Pokemon well and do generically better damage versus like, now Dondozo's hazed. I win, right? And then you don't.
Mm-hmm.
I love that about Leaf Storm. It's just so good. It forces Dodo to Terra. It's crazy.
I think in that regard, a lot of people are. I think I might have mentioned this on a stream before, but like I've always been of the opinion, Dondozo takes 2 Pokemon to work. Like they need the Tatsugiri, they need the Dondozo. I think it's fine to have like 2-mon game plans into Dondozo. And that way, like, if you have something that gets messed up by a specific, if you have like a 2-mon combo that gets messed up by a specific set, you can still say, okay, well, maybe if I take one of those mons and then have like one of my other mons like help the matchup, then like I guess if you had Clear Smog Amoonguss, you'd be like, I can deal with all these different Dondozos, but like to deal with the steel ones, I guess low kick
Or the substitute ones.
substitute ones like low kick King Gambit, for example. I think you can cover like steel Dondozo, like low kick Clear Smog. Obviously, we didn't have Clear Smog, but we had low kick, and that I'd say that was part of like that helps into Dondozo. I think a bit over like say Brick Break, which is what people
Yeah.
do.
Low kick does more damage into Steel Dodo, and more importantly for our purposes is that Oko's opposing King Gambit in 1 turn.
And we can
Or
use
Steel
that
Dodo.
as like a segue into like the low kick
Yeah.
on King Gambit, because that was kind of a unique pick that people
It
were
was a
running yet.
pretty last minute, like the last couple days change.
I thought we had it from the beginning. I know that, or from the time that we put King Gambit
Yeah.
on the team. King Gambit was not on the team
Yeah.
initially, as we talked about. Assault Vest was always the item on King Gambit. I don't think we ever second guessed that, especially since we had the goggles elsewhere.
AD King Gambit's just not fair. It's just one of those mons. You have every stat everywhere except Spadef. So give it Spadef. Who cares?
Especially since
Just have stats.
it's the point of it is that it's supposed to be really good into Goldengo. That's a Pokemon that our team sort of struggles with a little bit at times. We have to beat it with our own Goldengo, or we beat it with King Gambit. It beats like the special dragon types, for example. It does a lot. We talked about Terra Flying, and the 4 moves are pretty straightforward, with the exception of Low Kick, which again I don't respect screens. We already had Raging Bull. We really didn't need Brick Break for screens. And we wanted to KO opposing King Gambit that threatened our Goldengo. So that was like the reason for that. That was also the reason for the EV spread, which I believe is just max HP, jump point and attack, and then the rest is just speed investment dump, because we
Yeah,
want
it's
to
252 for 196 for 52.
Yep.
Yep.
Because we
We wanted
to
to creep
outspeed-
every big jump that we could.
Exactly. We want to outspeed every King Gambit and win the speed tie and low kick it before it can potentially Brick Break or low kick us. That also came up in the tournament for me. Essentially, our King Gambit answer was King Gambit, and that like worked out remarkably fine.
And one
Also worth
important
noting
other
that the speed stat, how it speeds Timid Goldengo if we have Tailwind up. We don't have
Yeah.
Tailwind up that often, but it was nice to have it as an option that we could just outspeed Goldengo with our King Gambit if we needed to.
And 196 Adamant low kick also did something important for us, whereas our team is actually on paper kind of weak to Hydreigon. Depending on the set and the circumstances, it makes it so that low kick plus sucker punch will get the 2-shot on Hydreigon. Again, if it stays dark or turns steel, which is pretty cool. And then otherwise, right? Like our spreads were just pretty. The spreads were fine. Like Goldengo is max speed timid, hits a jump point for leftovers, and then special attack bulk. Pelipper had a speed stat. We wanted to outrun Meow and Tailwind or something.
We wanted to outrun Meow and Tailwind. Initially we had max HP. We dropped it because we wanted to hit the jump point and special attack that allowed us to get a very favorable roll on Bizdef Amoonguss. Funnily enough, the one Amoonguss I got to Hurricane was Spadef, and I didn't KO it. But the special attack investment also meant like we O-code Glass Goldengo, stuff like that. Like Pelipper just did so much damage. No one expected us to do the amount of damage it did, and that won me so many games in Swiss.
And King Gambit spread is done. Pelipper spread is done. I mean, we can spend hours. We did on Tauros being 444 for 252 or whatever, but it's a guy. It just does its stuff. Shroomer is.
So Shroom, the main thing.
These mons are mons. Like, who cares?
It's just an Amoonguss spread. You want to go mainly physically defensive in this format.
And we had an
and so-
HP stat. We had an even HP stat because we were afraid of Super Fang household.
That Shrimmer takes the CB Wave Crash and CB Terra Water Rain Wave Crash and Rain from Hero Mode Palafin. That's what the spread does, and who cares? Like these mons are mons at this point, and I think now we're finally in a position where the people who did well at this tournament, not me and Nails, can talk
I've
about
got
how they did.
one more thing we got to talk
Um,
about because we haven't talked about it.
well, I'm the
Is
host, so.
We haven't really talked about Mimikyu yet.
we haven't talked about.
Oh, right. I
Mimikyu.
forgot about him.
Obviously, we mentioned we wanted a safety goggles on the team, so we put the safety goggles on the Mimikyu, which I think in a vacuum is generally not great. There are some lines where you click Trick Room in front of Amoonguss, but normally the problem that I had is that Amoonguss just kind of breaks the disguise and is still being productive on the turn to where Mimikyu is on the field. That being said, we did need one more thing, and we looked at stats and saw that Hydreigon was one of the more common Pokemon next to Amoonguss. And while something like Kingambit or something like Pelipper can hit a lot of the other partners, Hydreigon was very common. It was very scary for Goldengo, and so it was nice to have a Pokemon that could ignore Amoonguss and hit it, and hit the Hydreigon. So that was one reason for safety goggles that really paid off. Terra Fairy, because we were pretty fast and we didn't think Terra Ghost was going to be very helpful. It also gave us the option, in theory, to go for the other curse, which I don't think anyone ever did at any point, but it is a cool thing
On
to
purpose, at least.
on purpose. And in terms of the EV spread, just because like it is, we didn't really need the bulk. I don't think you have disguise. Obviously, you don't really live a ton of attacks, and you kind of, I guess you do live attacks, but like the bulk doesn't really help you live attacks. And so, especially if you are potentially going to click Curse and get rid of the rest of your HP anyways. It doesn't matter whether you're at 1 HP or at 44% HP. So
it just matters to have an odd HP stat so that you can curse twice and not die.
And so that's why we dumped it mostly in attack and speed. Outspeeding stuff is really nice when you have like this powerful player offs that you can throw off.
I think we outrun Jolly Annihilate, I think, was the team with the guy, which is pretty cool. The fun thing about Mimikyu was that we could we outran Adamant because we were able to use this as a ruler with our own Goldango to see if they're Annihilate or Goldango were timid or jolly or whatever, plus speed. Because we outrun the neutral speed versions of those guys, and we needed and then you need Jolly to outrun Jolly Annihilate, and we're max attack Adamant because that just does something. And then if you Terra Fairy ever, then you Oko Baxcalibur, Garchomp, you Oko the dragons with Play Rough. But you've seen an odd HP stat outrun the outrun stuff. Be strong. It's cool.
Who wants to give the curse spiel?
It's good.
It hits their protect, it hits their sub, it does 25% per turn. It's a Dozo matchup in that it sub, protect, rest are all moves that are really annoying if you're just trying to ship damage into it. So Curse just allows you to have a checkmate button against Dozo, and Dozo teams tend to be pretty heavily offensive anyways. So having Disguise Trick Room is just a really nice tool to have in those matchups.
It really helps you deal with towers in general. Like Amoonguss next to Excalibur, Amoonguss next to Volcarona.
Garganacl.
You just get to throw a curse on it, and then...
Hey, Roger, I have a question.
Yeah.
That was a really funny time to freeze up. That was so good.
No, his eyes are moving. Oh, that is awesome.
My Wi-Fi cut out as I asked that, and I kind of deserve that, frankly.
What did you ask?
I asked you if you could curse Goldango.
I did lose round 5. It was a terrible set. I was such a stupid turn. Shut up. That was...
Anyway,
so can you curse Goldango? This seems like
I said, I deserve to get disconnected there.
This seems like important information for the viewers. Can you curse Goldango?
I cursed at Goldango when it did not accept my curse.
Yeah.
It's similar to cursing at judges. They just tell you no, and they tell you lose the round.
And that's what happened, and my run went...
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the Mimikyu idea. Again, just a cool Pokemon. Does really well into Dozo, and then part of our Dozo game plan, and we got to bring it every time. So very convenient in that respect. Yeah, I guess
that's everything. The team's done.
I do want okay. I do want Nick
Angel's turn.
to point one thing out, or I want Nick to talk about one more thing, because we notably only have one protect on the entire team, and
Okay.
that is something that is a little strange. I think a lot of people had a lot more protects, and Nick went into this format, or at least pretty early on, decided that protect was not a very good move this format, and we maybe rescinded that opinion a little bit at this point after playing an open team sheet a little more. But I do want to hear your opinions on that.
Yeah, so Protect is cringe. Protect doesn't deal damage. A lot of the time, if you are using Protect, it just pushes your problems off to the next turn, and then you still have to deal with the problem later. Just to, you waited a turn, and now you still have to deal with the problem, and it doesn't like resolve your issues. I think that the Protect is more necessary in Series 2, where things deal more damage, where we have better fake out mons, specifically Iron Hands, and just getting doubled up on in open sheets is going to be way more punishing. But in Series 1, the nuki damage type options aren't really there. It's more of a 3-shot format, where doubling up into something doesn't necessarily kill it from full. And so Protect is just not. It's like protecting into nothing is often pretty bad, and you can just have a better move on the Mon, and that better move is more worthwhile to have than Protect. And you can just like build your team in a way that you get more mileage out of not having Protect on many Pokemon. Some Mons still need Protect, like Goldengo, that you're investing a bunch of time into nasty plotting. That's an important Mon to protect. Like stuff like Gyarados, Volcarona, etc. Like boosters, they still probably want to have Protect. And there's like a bunch of other examples, like Meowscarada is too frail, it gets 2 shots, so you kind of need Protect. And there's definitely more examples of Mons that like Protect, mostly more frail Mons, but since this team is like quite bulky and it can keep its health up with Pollen Puff, and it has Intimidate, and it just Protect is something that in Series 1, I think if you can get away with cutting it, you have a good time with it. You get a lot of value out of cutting it.
I'm going to
I think
respectfully disagree with the take.
Hold on. I think in general, in the last few like gens of Pokemon, I think a lot of Pokemon are getting kind of power crept to the point where like their kits are so good you don't really want Protect because you want to have 4 moves. Like for example, Audie and I on every iteration of our like Calyrex Ice Palkia teams last season, we had exactly one team that had 2 Protects, and the rest of them only had 1 Protect, and that was the Ice Rider. So I think I don't know if it's necessarily like, maybe it is like format dependent, but also like there have been like previous formats where you don't really need Protect as much.
And honestly, I don't think there's a single other Mon on our team that we could have put Protect on, is the thing. Like, so I'm not disagreeing with any of the choices that went into the team. I wouldn't have stuck Protect on any of these Pokemon. But I did think from having my first open team sheet experience that not having Protect on more things made it a lot easier to pin with your opponent's offense and felt a lot more punishing positionally. Now, you can just argue that you just like be better, but I don't think there are a lot of options, like a lot of circumstances where like that's just not really the answer in the situation. And I did wish, I was like, man, I kind of wish they couldn't just pick which Mon they wanted to kill right now. And as a strong contrast, the regional winning team had 5 Protects.
Mm-hmm.
It did.
And so
Um,
on the topic
And a Specs Pokemon.
and on the topic of just play better, let's talk about our tournament runs.
Uh-huh.
So we can start.
Hands
from
in the
top.
air if you had at least 6 wins at San Diego.
So, like I mentioned, we all did get championship points, and we can start. I guess from the top. I know Angel and I cut, so we'll talk last. But Roshan, how'd you finish? And did you have a matchup that you wanted to talk about?
6-4, started 4-0. I got bodied by the lunch break. That is all. I don't want to talk about any of the matches. None of them were particularly notable. I just kind of spiraled after lunch, and I had one. I've never played. I had one fun set, for me at least, against my good friend Alex. But it was just a. I mean, I got luckier than he did, and he was using Palafin, and I thought that matchup was really hard, but I got a lot luckier than he did. And then I started losing immediately afterwards. So he got the last laugh.
Justin, how did you finish, and did you have any matchups you wanted to talk about?
I don't really have any specific matchups. I just I had a pretty crazy schedule. I feel like so I'll just go down the names. I played I started 2-0. I played two Murkrow teams. I don't really didn't really recognize the names. Round 3, I played Kareem. I won. He had back stuff. Round 4, I played Brendan Zeng, who had just won on stream. He had Dondozo stuff, and I won that. Round 5.
Hey, you were next to me that game.
Yeah. Round 5, I played Tommy, and like Rajan said, he had the rain stuff, and it was I felt like it was kind of an even matchup. It's just whoever made comes down to certain turns late in the game, and I got some of them right, and so I won that. Round 6, I played Brian Yum, I think, and that was he also had rain, but it was kind of a different rain from what Tommy and Gavin and Alex had, and double steals kind of set on that. At this point, I was starting to get a migraine. I was 6-0 in the tournament. I was playing really well. I started getting developing a migraine. It kind of just got worse and worse every round. So I did go on stream versus Geo, and I lost that. I feel like I got a bit unlucky in the game 3 with the hypno and the 3-turn sleep. I don't really remember my next 3 rounds, because that was when my headache was getting really, really bad. And round 7, I played Alberto. Round 8, I played Stax, who's a Smogon user, very good doubles OU player. And then round 10, I played James Bake. And that said, I just I don't remember anything about it. I just remember seeing the pairings, and then right after the round, my migraine was so bad that I was very nauseous, and I ended up throwing up, and it finished. So I finished 7-3, 44th or something like that. But yeah, I feel like I was playing well enough to win the tournament, but the migraine kind of sabotaged my run. I feel which is pretty hard to, or it's pretty tough break. So next tournament I will have ibuprofen.
Yeah, that's a really tough break. I know it must have been after round 6 or round 7 that Tommy Coolin came up to me and said that Justin is winning this tournament. You were really on a tear, and it's a shame to see you to have a tournament end like that. But yeah, Nick, do you want to talk about your tournament run real quick?
Yeah, sure. So I lost I don't know, the team cruised for the first 3 rounds, or first 2 rounds, round 3 or 4 I queued into Lundul. We had some disconnections at for on turn 1 of the game. We sent out our leads, and the game decided to not, and so we saw each other's leads 3 times in a row, and that was most of my lead matchups that I could figure out. And so then we were just we hadn't played a game yet, and we were already into just rock paper scissorsing leads. I thought that my leads, one of the games, he had given my King Gambit a Defiant boost. The other 2 leads I felt they were even. He thought he was good in them. So I guess if you add that up, he's probably a little bit better. But I thought my position was playable. And then it came down to just he got a crit on my Goldengo on the last turn before I swept. I lost a set to Andrew Ding, who also his Specs Goldengo crit a Make It Rain on my Pelipper switch in, and then next turn got a -1 Make It Rain crit on one of my Mons, and then next turn got a -2 Make It Rain crit on one of my Mons. And that was game 2 after I won game 1, so I could be salty about that. And round 9, I lost to GCOC, the guy who ended up winning the tournament. We were at 6-2, and loser goes home. He outplayed me in game 1, and then I missed a Hydro Pump for game on his Garganackle. Like last Mon Pelipper against Garganackle, I would have killed it. Then barely missed to kill the next turn with -1 Make It Rain, plus the Hydro Pump. And so that was my tournament. And like, I'm not saying I thought I had the matchup against GCOC pretty figured out, but I mean, I lost game 1, and then I don't like at that point. I'm at the mercy of hoping like the game says that I get to win. So
Yeah,
like,
I feel like that was what you just described was like the story of several of my
Yeah,
rounds.
like-
Kind of like you lose round. Like I was playing open team tree kind of sloppy. I was taking more notes than I had to, and I wasn't spending enough time preparing for the games. I play a sloppy game 1, either a turn or a game plan that's not great, and I go, okay, I figured this out now. But then if you lose a game in Pokemon, it's not forgiving enough to like just say, well, you're gonna win games 2 and game 3. Anything goes wrong, Iron Head Flitch, like whatever it is, and then you're like, man, I really wish I got to go to game 3 there, and I would have if I didn't screw up game 1. And I felt that like just
yeah,
a single.
the solution is don't screw up game 1.
That
And
is the
so,
solution. And I screwed up game 1 a lot.
I got pretty punished for my mistakes, and like it happens. I'm not trying to say I deserve to win or anything. I very clearly didn't. Like I lost a game off of my opponents being better than me. So it's like it's fine. Wish I played better. But the rest of the and then round 10, I just kind of like won game 1, and then was kind of disinterested because I didn't really care about getting 10 CP, and I brought troll modes. For my 6 wins, it was just the team kind of doing what it does and just rolling. I like played some Pokemon. I made some nice plays, but I didn't have to do too much. It was just team was good.
Other people who cut.
Okay, so I'll go first because I did worse, and that's kind of what we're doing here. So I went 7-3 in Swiss. Crazy 7-3. I started out doing pretty well. I didn't have any opponents I recognized, although they did. I played Hector Vargas round 1, who's a friend of mine from SoCal, and he did not do very well this tournament. But my round 1 opponent went 2-4, and my round 2 opponent started out 1-6, and I was like, okay, my resistance is off.
And you cut?
Yes. Shout out to my round 2, who started out 1-0 with Wave Crash, Terra Dragon, Terra Blast, Order Up, Aquatail, Dondozo. They started out 1-0, and they were 1-6, and they finished 3-7. And that was enough to buoy my resistance up into top cut. So they're the real MVP. And so I think round 4 or round 5, I play River Davis, who's using the same team as Zomog, who was the 2nd seed. And funnily enough, I played them the same round that Angel played Zomog. And we had very different stories to tell after it. Because game 1, they led Sableye Dragonite into what I think was Pelipper plus Goldengo, and then I switched to Amoonguss, and they weren't allowed to Earthquake. It was Choice Band Dragonite. They weren't allowed to Earthquake in front of Wide Guard Pelipper, and they weren't allowed to click a Fire Punch. So they locked into like Dragon Claw, and then did no damage, and I clicked Nasty Plot, and then I clicked Nasty Plot again, and then I clicked Nasty Plot a 3rd time, and they didn't want to switch out because of Make It Rain. And then I clicked Make It Rain Tailwind, and the game was over. It was great. And that's why I think
enjoy my game of Solitaire.
Yeah, I really just did not have to play Pokemon that game. Game 2, I had to play a lot more Pokemon. The Volcarona was a pain in the butt. I had to like exert enough pressure on it to force it to switch out. And then in the end game, it came down. So they got to +1, and I forced it to switch out, which I don't know how. They maybe could have kept it in the entire time. And then I managed to get it down to a Goldengo versus Volcarona endgame. And my Goldengo was faster and was at +1, and so it managed to KO the Volcarona. And River was visibly shocked when my Goldengo moved first, which is a recurring theme throughout the tournament. My first loss was to Brian Yum, who Justin beat the next round. And I really just played game 1 really poorly. I was way more afraid of the Palafin than I was supposed to be. like we talked about, our Palafin answers are not very good because we don't have great ways to hit bulky waters. And so my thought was, what if I lead Pelipper? Because he was Damp Rock on his Pelipper. And then if I lead Pelipper, he won't get to switch in his Pelipper and he'll run out of rain and I'll win the end game. And it turns out his actual game plan was just like push Dragonite through our team. And I just did not respond to that very effectively. And so I lost game 1. I won game 2 pretty easily. And then game 3, it came down to I either needed to like make a read at some point with my boosted Goldengo in front of King Gambit, or I needed to wake up in less than 3 turns with my King Gambit to KO his King Gambit. And I just got the 3-turn sleep and lost because of that. But like I also just had plays that I could have made and decided to play risk averse and lost. So that's my first loss. Then I played, I forget exactly who I played for a few of the rounds, but I remember I played Alberto Raniero. Oh, I played Cortex, who cut. And I got very lucky that I crit a Shadow Ball game 1, and that won game 1 because of that. And then game 2, just kind of bodied him. Game 2, oh, shoot. Sorry, this is all coming back to me now. Game 2, so he is, I'm pulling up his pace right now. He was Razor Claw Mets. And so he led Mets, and I was like, I think he's going to lead Mets.
Love Razor Claw Mets.
And so I led my King Gambit, and I was like, oh, cool. I'm at +1. I have Rain Up. His team is like Armarouge, Skeletor, Goldengo, Breloom, and Didi. Other than Breloom, he doesn't actually have a great way to KO this King Gambit, and it's a +1 attack. So I should just win the game. It's going to do a ton of damage. And I realized he was not going to bring Breloom game 2 because I just kind of Goldengo'd all the way through him game 1. And Breloom did absolutely nothing. And so I was like, okay, this King Gambit is going to go in this game. And then turn 1, he clicks Heat Wave in the rain. And he crits my King Gambit because it's Razor Claw, and he burns my King Gambit. And I think I'm just disappointed. I'm like, man, I'm going to lose this game. And then King Gambit takes 3 KOs that game and never dies. It's insane. It doesn't matter. It did not matter that it was burnt. It just did too much. So that was a crazy game. I played Alberto Raniero, and I talked about this in his team report. He was the one Merkur Goldengo to top cut, and this is my 4th Merkur Goldengo I played, I think, because I played it round 1 and 3 as well. And
I played it 0 times.
yeah, have you thought about just getting good?
Playing my best
Clearly, if
matchup
you were at the top
repeatedly.
tables, you would have played Merkur Goldengo. To be fair, my round 3 opponent did go 6-4 with Merkur Goldie, and this was their first tournament, so like they actually did pretty well with it. So this one was funny because game 2 I led Pelipper. I lost game 1, and then game 2 I led Pelipper and Taurus because they weren't bringing Murkrow, and they led Rotom Heat, and they led Goldengo, and they clicked Thunderbolt, Nasty Plot, and I clicked Wave Crash, and I KO'd the Rotom. They clicked Nasty Plot, and I clicked Hydro Pump, and I KO'd the Goldengo. And the game was over, and they were shocked that Hydro Pump KO'd Goldengo. But that kind of speaks to the power of Life Orb Pelipper. And then
Which was Adi's primary, like, really exciting. Like, he was just like, we need more damage on this team.
Yeah.
So he did spearhead the Life Orb.
And it paid off so much. Although to be
And
fair,
his
again,
opponents were shocked.
Legitimately, multiple people were shocked. Like Angel was shocked when we played each other. Spoilers. So
I've been taking a shot every time Adi said shocked, and soon I'm going to have to leave the video.
And then game 3, the funny moment happens where we had the game state is Rotom and Amoonguss on the field versus my Tauros and something else, I forget. And he clicks Rage Powder and he tears the Rotom, and I teared my Tauros. And once again, he was shocked.
They were? Yeah.
He was like, what is happening? And then he looked at the team sheet and he had this disappointed look in his eyes. And it was great. You love when that happens. It's great that happens now and that they look at the team sheet and they realize exactly what's happening. I love that that's a thing now. Because he clicked Rage Powder, which of course I ignored, and he clicked Thunderbolt into Tauros. And so, Nick, you talked about Grass being a bad defensive Terra. It's actually pretty decent for Tauros. It tanked that. He did no damage that turn, and even though he Terra Electric, he did live the Wave Crash, but he was going down to a second one, and I kind of had it pinned with the Terra Grass. So that was a really cool turn that happened, and again, I did like those two players both top cut, so they really, again, I need the resistance, and they pulled it out for me, winning out from X2. Then I played Angel, who was of course on call. It was an awful mirror match.
Is he?
Angel hasn't really said anything for the past 15 minutes.
He's Angel's here. I love that guy.
Hey, what's up?
What's going on, homie?
Sorry, we will get to your tournament run in a minute. I have a lot to talk about.
But you get to talk about 3 games.
No. It's in my report. I don't get to do this very often. I have to listen to other people talk about for like 45 minutes there in every single round. You can listen to me talk about my tournament.
Wait, whose report is it?
This is Roger
Sorry, who
learning what I have to
finished?
deal with
Sorry,
on a
who
daily
finished the
basis.
highest? Who finished the highest with the team?
Okay, I'm not going to talk about the set
Wait,
against
Angel's
Angel.
here?
It did come down to Tauros speed ties because Tauros does 90% to opposing Tauros. Pelipper speed ties because Pelipper does 90% to opposing Pelipper. Because Pelipper was crazy. And then last but not least, in my win-in, I played Wolf Glick, who was at 8-1. So he had already locked up top cut, but he decided that he wanted to knock me out of the tournament for some reason. And he was running Dondozo. And this set was stupid. So game 1, he brings his Dondozo mode, and I bring my anti-Dondozo mode. He is Terra Flying, so it is a little more annoying to play very cautiously because he can Oko Amoonguss unless I get Intimidate off. He can Oko Mimikyu unless I get 2 Intimidates off. So it's very tricky. And but I play game 1, I think, very well, and intimidate him down to like -3 or whatever. And then I realized that Terra Blast is now hitting as a special attack, and that's not something that we had considered in our Dondozo game plans. But thankfully, its special attack stat is not nearly high enough for it to matter. But I do have that scare, and I realized that, okay, I do have to play a little more cautiously. I don't actually win the game as soon as I get it down to -6. Game 2, he beats me, and he doesn't bring Dondozo, and it turns out then when Wolf actually gets to play Pokemon and doesn't play Dondozo, he's actually pretty good at Pokemon. And I lose to the Sylveon, notably, because I didn't maybe respect it nearly as much. It is Terra Fire, Terra Blast. I didn't bring Pelipper, so I was like, okay, I gotta respect the Sylveon just a little more in game 3. And so instead of King Gambit, like we normally bring, I bring Goldengo, and I keep it in back because I don't want him to know that I brought Goldengo. And he does bring Dondozo, game 3, and it's all going according to plan, except that I do have to take a hit with my Tauros in order to get into position where it's in Trick Room and his Dondozo is asleep. And so I bring I take a hit with my Amoonguss, and I switch out my Amoonguss because I need to get the Regenerator off to be able to live another attack. Bring in Tauros, he gets the 1-turn Wake, and he KOs my Tauros. So that's the first thing that had to happen for him to have a chance. Otherwise, he goes to -6 and it doesn't matter. The second thing that happens, I'm like, okay, I don't get to Chilling Water him to death. Now I have to like kind of aggro it. So I put it back to sleep. I get Mimikyu next to on the field. I click Curse. He's on a clock now, right? And on the last 2 turns of his Curse, I bring in my Goldengo and I click Nasty Plot. And so now the game state is he just protected. I click Nasty Plot with Goldengo, and I have a Amoonguss next to it on what I think is the second to last turn of Trick Room. Or last turn of Trick Room, I forget which one. And he just protected, so he can't protect again. And I'm like, okay, this is perfect. I get to Leaf Storm. He's at like 1 HP. The Dondozo will go down, and then the Shadow Ball will go into Tatsugiri, and then everything on the team loses to Make It Rain, and I win the game. And I miss the Leaf Storm. And the Shadow Ball goes into Dondozo and KOs it, so I don't take damage, but like now the Tatsugiri is at full, and it does live a +2 Shadow Ball because we don't have special attack investment. And so now I have to like play Pokemon. He's been clicking one button all game. I've had to overcome these 2 like bad luck instances in this game, and I have to basically call every turn right. I'm playing out of my mind, and I get to a position where my Amoonguss gets a Pollen Puff off to KO the Armarouge after he Armor Cannons and takes a KO. And it's just Tatsugiri left at like 40% HP into my Goldengo that outspeeds it naturally and Amoonguss on the field. But I have 3 seconds of your time left. And then I switch in my Goldengo because he just took a KO, and the game disconnects. And we look at we look at each other, we look at the judges, and we're the last game playing because of course we are. And Wolf is saying like, yeah, like listen, I had the game won. He was going to run out of your time if I just click protect. You can't get 2. It moves in, so you should give me the win. And I was like, first off, dude, this is my win in it. I'm not like conceding this game. And also like I had the game if I had enough time to click my moves, and I had a mod advantage. Like, just you tell the judges that. The judges were like, listen, time doesn't matter. This is what the game state is. It's 2-1. And so that means you go to sudden death. And it turns out Dondozo is basically unbeatable in sudden death because they can at any point just switch into their boosted Dondozo and you never take a KO. So he just led like annihilate Dondozo and clicked U-turn and attack. And it was just impossible for me to make a safe play. Not that I necessarily played that especially well. I think that if it wasn't round 10 and I wasn't like dead exhausted and one might have taken less time and 2 might have found a better line. But like, that was
you're gonna get smacked. We like, this is not a team that wins in sudden death.
This is not a team that wins in sudden death. I had better lines than the ones I took.
There's lines there, but it's bleak.
Yeah,
it's like 80. It's like 85-15.
I would have had to call the first
really
2 turns correctly to be able to have a chance, basically, and that was unlikely. And it was round 10, and literally everyone was watching through the last ones, and we had this whole judge call and everything. And so he wins, and I am like. I'm just depressed. I am now at this point, including Players Cup and including regionals and including the win in for Worlds Day 2. I am, I think, 0 for 6 in win in, lose and go homes. Despite that, I have cut 2 regionals, this being the second one, where I've lost one of those games because I got in as the last seed on Resistance. So every single one of my opponents, except for Angel, won their last round of the tournament. And as a result, I snuck in as the 32nd seed. And proceeded to get bodied by Emilio, and we don't even have to talk about that because Emilio is just crazy, and also had Terraflying Dondozo, but had scarier threats in front of it. And so I lose to Emilio in top cut, but I did top cut the regional despite having this absolutely bonkers game against Wolf. So that's my run in great detail. Angel, it is your turn. You want to tell us about your tournament run?
Hey, Angel's here?
So I started off like 2-0, and I ran into Ryan with the Sableye Volcarona, and I really couldn't break through the Volcarona with Sableye next to it because it threatened Encore Disable on the Scarf Tauros, and then it's Terra Water, Giga Draining, and everything. So I lost that. Then I ran into Ding, who just beat Nails, and I wasn't sure how to approach that matchup, but I realized he's using Murkrow, Garchomp stuff, and I've played 4 Murkrow at this point, and none of them had taunt. So I got to the board state where I can Terra Fairy Pelipper in front of Garchomp Murkrow, and it couldn't do anything. And Ding was visibly shocked when Hurricane one-shot his Amoonguss, because he wasn't prepared for that. He's banking on Amoonguss living the Hurricane to put me to sleep, but then gets one-shot, and then he can't touch anything from my board because of Wide Guard. And then I played Kareem after that, who had already played the team. So I'm facing people who have continually played the team already. And I don't remember the game very well, but I got a crit in game 2 that just basically sealed the game. And no, I got a confusion off of Hurricane, which throughout the tournament I confused 4 people, and they all hit themselves. So that was nice. And I don't remember much else. I ran into Adi, like he said, and it came down to Pelipper speed tie in game 3, which I won. And then I was pretty much locked in the cut. At that point, I was 8-1. At that point, I was deciding, okay, do I want to play out the last round to get information on who I'm playing, or do I want to just concede and then not give out way more information than we need to? Because at this point, there was a reasonable chance there'd be multiple copies of our team in cut. Then I got paired with Emilio, and I said, okay, you know what? I'll play this out for Adi's Resistance just in case. But Emilio beat me anyway. And he got 2 rolls on my Goldango with Timid Earth Power from Lamora, which I learned after the tournament was like a 18% chance to KO or something.
Good choice specs,
like
right?
20% or 37 or whatever, but like
Yeah.
still in favor still. So.
Yeah, and then I got absolutely destroyed by him. And then I'm setting up for top cut, I got paired with Cortex, who had played Adi the day before. And the matchup just comes down to like guessing the leads. Because
We
the
did a
only
lot
way,
of that prep, right, in the hotel.
we prepped. Well, I should say you guys prepped for me because I fell asleep. um, his only answer to King Gambit was Breloom, and if I go Goldango, he can't really do anything. So it's like a mixed which steel does he have to account for. Then when we sit down for top 32, I discover he has a game one loss because he messed up his team sheet on his Breloom.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he didn't lose the
makes,
Mon.
it
But he
makes the
got
matchup a lot easier.
yeah. So he didn't lose the Mon, but he just got the game loss, which is very handy. Because I tossed game two in a very favorable position, and then game three I won on I just called a play and I won. And then for top 16, I play against Chuppa with the Don Dozo Palmot stuff. And when thinking about that matchup, we knew Chuppa wasn't gonna bring Dozo because he presumably watched Mike play the matchup and learned that Don Dozo was unbringable in that matchup. So I had to deal with just the non Dozo mode, and I won game one pretty convincingly. And then game two, you can watch the game it was on stream. I made a really bad error game two, turn one, where I made a nice call and switched in Mungus on Trick Room for free when I could have just gone to King Gambit and then threatened to KO on everything on his team and then pretty much won from there. But because I went into Mungus, Goldango came in and was able to set up nasty pots and then sweep through me. That cost me the game. And then game three, I made a return one. KO is Meowscarada in front of Palmot, and as the Palmot switched out, and it came up to an endgame where he had Terra Steel +0 Goldango and Palmot that had just came in versus my 55% Mungus and my full HP Tauros. And I decided to read him going for Fake Out Shadow Ball into the Tauros, and then proceeded to get Fake Out, make it rain, and both my Mons live, and I lose from there. So that was pretty much my run. I had not played any games with the team coming into this tournament. I just said I'm gonna vibe because the team has Mons I can understand how to use, and as long as I can play the board, I'll be fine. And I said, all right, I'll rock with this, and it went out pretty well. The team gave me every option I possibly wanted. But I think if I had played more games, I probably could have gone further in the tournament. But that's on me, and next time I'll play more games to practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, still a really impressive performance to get top 16 at what is, for now, the biggest regional era ever. Excuse me, in the modern era. I know Angel's going to correct me if I don't say that.
Yeah, because you'd be lying.
Yeah, well, yeah. The best of one free regionals are in 2010. Were a little bigger, but this is certainly the biggest regional where everyone had to pay a $70 entry fee. And
True.
for now, until Orlando. And I'm hoping that all of you guys top cut Orlando and give me more content. But yeah, if you need a team for Liverpool, or if you need a team to just ladder with for the rest of the month while Series 1 is around, I definitely recommend you try this out. If Angel can top cut with 0 games beforehand, I'm sure you can top cut Liverpool with 0 games beforehand. You just have to play as well as Angel did and not curse into Golden and stuff like that.
Why are we talking about that? It was a very low point.
The team is very good.
Probably my saddest turn playing Pokemon ever, I think.
We don't have to go into that in depth. Whether or not I can think of more sad turns for you. I'll just accept that one. But yeah, I think
it was
the
a
team,
cold winter day, Worlds of 2016.
You've been on stream a few times. I'm sure we can fact check that.
Like we said, this is the saddest point playing Pokemon. Don't have to cross-examine the guy.
Cross-examining is his job.
Yeah, I think the team was very just like extremely well positioned heading into San Diego. I think it just does powerful things into the format in general, but also the fact that people didn't really respect Pelipper at all it just gave the team the extra oomph. I think moving forward, it's still going to be solid. It's not necessarily going to be the perfect meta call. Like, I think it just was a really sick meta call and also a strong team. And I think we nailed it, even if we got one top 16 and then the rest of us kind of
One
Could've
top 16, one top 32, one top 64, two top 128s.
We got
We
got
call
two
that
top 60.
5 for 5 with CP. Oh,
Don't
no?
forget Sohad. He's in the same six. Different
so hard
sets.
to get 33rd as well. So like
Same,
He used different
yeah,
sets.
same
and,
6, different team.
like we said, we did not figure out the sets until pretty late. Like this team does have some flexibility with item slots. Less with move slots. I do think we needed all the moves, but like
Minus
except for
Raging
Raging
Bull.
Bull,
Yeah.
yeah, terrible.
Interesting.
Yes.
Is that despite, I know we had like, it was like the most a single team appeared in top 128, but I also believe it was like 6 out of 7 of the highest mons in usage overall, which
Yeah,
6 out of 10,
a,
Yeah.
5
a
out of
strong
6.
yes, okay, 5 out of 6. Okay, it was just like a very strong, like a collection of like very strong mons, and we kind of like hit almost all of them on the head.
they had good synergy.
Yeah. I think that was the important thing, right? Like, just the sets and the way those sets work together. And like, there's a lot of good ways to use those Pokemon, but it really was just like, I do think we had a really strong combination of things that your opponent isn't prepping for as heavily, ways of bastardizing the speed tiers, and just other sorts of really cool things.
I think it's a good package.
Uh,
I'm happy with what we came to.
I'm also very happy with the team, and I guess with that we should probably wrap it up with final words and shoutouts. Rajan, you want to go first?
I mean, shout outs to the staff at San Diego. Like, there was connection issues just a lot of them, and there was a lot of problems just based off the hardware we have in game, or software, excuse me, like in game, and they really did just like handle those issues extremely well. And we ran a very effective, very efficient 10-round tournament that got us out by like 9 or whatever, which was like 2.5 hours earlier than like earliest projections. So it's just really shout outs to them. And then shout outs to the Pelipper flock for letting me guide the boat. It's been a while since I've really like had my like, little ducklings running behind me taking my team, and I'm really glad that y'all trusted the process. So it was a really fun team. And now I've used Amoonguss, which I've never done before, so it just unlocked my full potential. So shout outs to that guy. He's really good. Did you guys know that?
He only got good this gen, but
I had
I'm here.
no idea Amoonguss was this good.
Okay,
Yeah.
Nick is capping.
I know. I am objectively capping on that one. I just haven't used it. I've used it on one team since 2015, despite playing a lot of Pokemon, and just it's better. It is better than it's ever been. I don't think that one's controversial though. Do you agree with that?
2014.
I also don't agree with that. I mean,
Fair
since you started playing, but
Okay, sure. Yeah, sorry. Like, I picked up the game post Worlds 2015. I used it on a team there. And so like 2016 on, I think this is the best Amoonguss has ever been. It was probably better in like 2012 and 13.
I mean,
this
is in fact the only regional Dex Amoonguss has been in since 2016. So
Those were
That's
your shout
also
outs.
fair. And like it was pretty good in Gen 8, but yeah.
Nick, shout outs.
Shout outs. Shout outs to Rajan for like we've been like we've worked extremely closely together. We're like best friends, and we've been working together for like 7.5 years at this point, and we haven't ever run the same team at a tournament, despite just prepping extremely closely together. We just tend to run our own stuff.
We did once,
About-
but I ripped it.
yeah. On like Monday or Tuesday, I just decided that my stuff, it was solid-ish, but it had flaws that just weren't fixable. And so I decided to pivot onto Goldie Shroom, Rajan stuff, and we made it work, and it came together really nicely. So yeah, first shout outs to Rajan for like taking me in when I needed a direction and letting me be part of the process. Shout outs again, what Rajan said, to the staff and specifically to Mike Waitala, who was the lead at San Diego. Just they had everything figured out. They got good systems in place for like early team submission so that they could make team sheets. And then everything just went really smoothly despite the game not having um, like live competition and just having a lot of headaches that had to deal with. The tournament was really smooth. Um, so like the staff did a great job. Like we still need day two Swiss, but like that's not something the staff can control. Shout outs to the rest of Tub. Like y'all are great. And it was, I thought our prep like as a group, like a massive group, but I thought our prep went great. We had 23 players in the tournament, 20 got points. 2 of them got top 4, like 7 in cut. And 7 out of 23 cutting is just an absurd conversion rate. Like, I thought we killed it, so great job, team.
Heck yeah. Big, shout outs. Thanks to Rajan for, he a long time ago, he used to he thought my teams were so bad that he would get shocked and almost tweet them out upon seeing them.
Pokebase has a tweet directly button, and I have fingers in my pockets.
Yeah. Anyways, he did the team did kind of originate from Rajan, paying attention to my channel or my team building channel. So he took some of the ideas I floated out and turned it into real stuff. Shout outs to Audie Nick for helping optimize a lot of stuff. Like the Terratypes musical chairs was not a pleasant experience, but we came to the right Terratypes. Shout outs to everyone that was like, "Hey, are you okay?" After I went to my room and passed out, and shout outs to all my online friend groups that were excited to see me on stream once, even though I lost. I got a lot of pings even from Duel Links communities too. So I always appreciate support from friends. And yeah, shout outs to Tub. Our prep was awesome. I had a lot of fun. The way we prepped. It's different from we can't just ladder because we have open team sheets now and it's crazy. But so I like the methods we came up with to account for not being able to ladder as much. So yeah.
But speaking on that note, shout outs to the Showdown staff who now have put open team sheet capabilities in laddering to really, it took a lot of coding and I had nothing to do with that. But shout outs to the Showdown devs who took an idea that we had collectively about how to incorporate open team sheet on ladder in a way that doesn't, force people to ladder with open team sheet. And I think it was a great compromise and a really well done solution. So now folks who are able to ladder open team sheet are able to do so safely and more effectively. So shout outs to them too. I forgot those.
Mm-hmm. Angel, do you have final words or shout outs?
Yeah, shout out to staff. Like everyone said, staff was awesome. Everyone ran smoothly. Shout out to you guys for building the team and helping me prep because I would have been lost without you guys. And then shout out to everyone I played. Everyone was a pleasant experience, having to play against them. Everyone was nice. That's about it. Developer Flock, let's fly.
Developer Flock, let's fly. But audio shoutouts.
Yeah, I want to reiterate everything that everyone said about the staff. They were really excellent. I was shocked the tournament went as smoothly as it did. Genuinely, I was just shocked the entire weekend. My opponents were shocked the entire weekend. We were all, but no, really, this tournament staff was just incredible the entire time. And then
he works at BuzzFeed now.
What?
I said you work at BuzzFeed now.
I want to give a shout out to Nick's friend who got us the Terra shards we needed at the last minute to change our team at 8 p.m. on
Shout
Friday.
Out to Grandma's Cooking.
Grandma's Cooking. Big shout out to them. And yeah, shout out to all you guys for being along for the ride, building this team, building it out, working with us, working together to really make it as well as possible. up until the last minute, I just had a fantastic time, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do for the rest of the format. So yeah, that's all I got. Thank you all for watching. I know we went a little long, but like it is hard to get 5 people's thoughts in a team report, and we had a really like we've been playing this, we've been grinding this format really. We all were really ready for this tournament, and like Nick said, as a team building group, we really killed it, and we had a lot of ideas, and those ideas manifested themselves in a few different teams that a lot of which are going to be showcased on the channel or have already been showcased on the channel. But I'm really happy with how we did, and I definitely would recommend that you try the team out as per usual. The rental code is on the screen right now, and the paste and everyone's socials will be in the description down below if you want to check it out.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, I will see you all later.